We just need to start it. Whilst
Okay.
Yeah.
Right then, should we get going?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Jeff.
Hello, I'm Patrick.
This is that's
Very
Bella.
good. That
there
was
you
Bella.
go.
There we go.
Go. All right. See ya.
Some dog noises in the background for our
chompy chomp noises for people to enjoy.
How are you? You all right?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm all right. Yes. What have I been up to since I was last here? Started painting some arbites.
Oh, lovely. No more, I'm afraid.
No, now you're just on cam for no reason.
Oh, there we go. No, she doesn't need a reason.
No, she doesn't need a reason. That's true. So started painting some arbites. Arbites.
Is that the correct?
I never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so started painting them. I was really struggling to figure out how to make them look something interesting.
Okay.
So went with...
What's the official, heavy metal scheme? Black and gold?
Black with one gold shoulder pad and a white stripe up the top of the helmet.
Okay.
And that's it. They're quite muted, and their undersuit is like a very, very, very dark grey.
Yeah.
Or it might even be black, but then just highlighted up with greys.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I thought, I wanted to do them initially. I thought, let's go bonkers on them.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe do that. And so I sprayed one like a sort of Space Wolf grey. I bought a Colourforge can.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, let's try something a bit different.
Cheaper and you get more.
And yeah.
Hashtag not sponsored. I love Colourforge sprays.
Oh, they're really good.
They're really good.
If you
though not unavailable in the US, I believe.
Really?
I think so.
Oh,
they
wow.
haven't quite branched out into I think you can get them in Europe now, but they don't have the distribution for the US yet.
Oh, that's a bit of a shame because having been to LVO, I like to think we've got some American brothers. We've got, and we know plenty of you already watch the show, and we've met. I'm going to say all of you by any stretch of imagination, but we've met a few of you. Maybe we did. Maybe we did meet all of you. Yeah,
we met all of our US supporters.
Possibly, but because it's something like an extra 250 mil of paint.
Yeah.
And for my reckoning, roughly around about £1.50, £2 cheaper.
Yeah.
And to be fair to them, they've got a really good comparisons chart. So they show you what paints they're sitting next to for Games Workshop.
Colour match to GW, aren't
and they also tell you what is the nearest paints for them as well for Vallejo.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've seen one that was covered at least 2 or more. It might have even been 3, and I can't remember what the third one was. So the colour I bought was the Fang, if we're talking Games Workshop.
Oh, fantastic. It's really interesting. Something's just popped into my head. Paint drama.
Go on. Love a paint drama.
But not really. Is when we're at LVO, people were chatting and about, GW sits as the biggest, or they sell the most miniature paint.
Yes.
And Army Painter are apparently now number 2.
Oh, right, okay.
And it's fascinating. Chatting to people and seeing why and this, that and the other. So I know Army Painter, they've released their new Fanatic paints, haven't they? Which seem to be having like a good reputation. But people are saying one of the really good things about Army Painter is their distribution is awesome. The good thing about Army Painter is it's everywhere. Yeah. And GW, it's everywhere.
Absolutely.
Vallejo, which I think is how Google tells me to pronounce it, because I don't want to.
I can't not throw the L's in. I'm afraid
it's Vallejo, but then you don't say paella, do you? You say paella.
Yeah.
So is it Vallejo? Something. Anyway.
Yes. Do you know?
Someone let us know.
Our European YouTubers seem to always get it right. I've noticed.
Yeah. Is the paint brand that begins with a V?
Yes. Well done.
Yeah. Can't get that wrong. Is someone will go, it's a silent V.
Hello.
They're quite hard to buy at the minute. Their distribution is not quite as good as it used to be. So apparently AK are eating away at their sales. So AK are...
They're countrymen, if I remember rightly. Because they're both Spanish, aren't they?
And their naming conventions are very similar.
Yeah.
So it's not a big step to go, oh, well, I wanted that one, but here's a different brand, but it's the same name. I'll get that one instead.
Oh, and it's madness, isn't it? Because you think, and you know, and you know, like our friend Byron, one half of Element Games, you know, they stock everything under the sun. But you know, you go into their Nottingham branch and AK have a really big dent in his shop. How much of it there is, you know, there's plenty of it.
And from chatting to, again, like this is something that I didn't really. Well, people know if they've watched the podcast for a while. Like, I love behind the scenes stuff. I love how things work. And chatting to Sergio, Blue Hair Sergio,
yes,
who works in a hobby store in the US.
He does, yeah.
They won't stock AK because the range is so big.
Yeah.
And you think, well, what's the issue with that? And it's like, well, we only have so much floor space, and then you have to buy like the rack that the paint comes on. So that actually puts people off stocking it because it just takes so much physical space.
Well, wasn't this a thing when we were in LVO that Byron actually approached AK and said, I think you need to reduce some of your range.
I admire his brutal honesty. Yeah.
Well, he's always. Do you know what? He is. If you've not had the pleasure of meeting Byron, you don't see it quite as much with his videos. You do see it to some degree with the Artis Opus videos, which are exceptionally good. But he's the nicest, brutally honest man I think I've ever met.
Yeah,
he literally is. He literally is really, genuinely a charming and quite unassuming chap, while being utterly brutally honest about everything.
Yeah,
and you know, and I think for a man who, you know, put some pennies in his bank account selling AK paints, seems to be quite good at going trying to say to them, can you make less of them?
Yeah. And
I think it might be you want some floor space back, maybe.
Yeah. But that was something that didn't even cross my mind. But yeah, like your hobby, where people's hobby dollars go, if you think, you'd be like, right, I really want to buy this, and you like Vallejo, to me, I always thought of as kind of like the number 2 paint. It was like, oh, you have your GW paints.
Well, they were for me.
Yeah, if you want something a bit different or in a dropper bottle, or maybe it's a bit more advanced, regardless of whether it is or it isn't. Like, I think that was the perception that I had. And come on, brain function. That's now, if their distribution like isn't incredible, like you physically can't buy it, then you know someone else might have worse paints. I'm not like, but then go like sell way more just because they're available.
Well, you know, and the thing is like, you know, I don't know what your local friendly gaming store is like, but our local one being Element, is I'm hard pushed to go in there and not sell everything that I'm after.
Yeah.
You know, they sell all of the AK range, and they have everything for MIG, they have everything out for ammo.
I went in there recently and I was going to edit to myself to dramatic effect, but I accidentally cut to you.
I'll just look surprised.
We'll try again.
Go on then.
Dog.
Oh,
there's someone outside.
Bella in guard dog mode.
Bella.
Oi. No one there.
Food. Yes.
I'll show up for food.
Yeah.
A bit like myself, to be honest.
So I went into Element Games recently, and I was searching for Tamiya Flat White, and I couldn't find it.
Oh, do they not hold the Tamiya range?
They do.
Oh, right.
But not all of it. I think they had like a little shelf on like.
Did they have Tamiya Flat White, but Cult of Painter coming and bought all of it?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. It's like the Cult of Paint effect, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
And that's something I want to talk about in a minute as well. Stephen, I come with news. Is it the war, sir? Is it finally over? No. Something more important. Building websites with Squarespace. I am aghast. But sir, what is Squarespace? Well, Stephen, Squarespace is an all-in-one website platform to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or already established, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place. By the Emperor's head and shoulders, knees and toes. With Fluid Engine, a next-generation website design system from Squarespace, it's never been easier to unlock unbreakable creativity. Start with a best-in-class website template and customize every design detail with reimagined drag-and-drop technology for desktop or mobile. Get started with one of Squarespace's professional website templates with designs for every category and use, then customize your look, update content, and add features to fit your unique needs. You can make any Squarespace template do what you want, so your idea, brand, or business stands out online. If you want to sell anything, Squarespace has got you covered. Sell your products in an online store. Whether you want to sell physical, digital, or service products, Squarespace has the tools you need to start selling online. Wow, this is the most important information I've ever heard. It gets better. So check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/thepaintingphase to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Yeah, so, but then I went to Hobbycraft because I remember that they have.
Yeah, I was just about to recommend Hobbycraft to you.
All of the Tamiya range.
Yeah.
Like with the Airfixes and the Tamiya like model kits and stuff like that. And they had all of the paints, and I was like, flat white, out of stock.
No.
So that was out of stock as well. And if you go onto Amazon, it's £6, whereas if you get it anywhere else, it's £2.
Oh, that's blatantly blooming supply and demand at work.
So that was really sad. But yes, I had I did get some flat white, which I was incredibly happy about. And the funniest thing was, like GW, they say it's non-toxic. You know, you could put this in your coffee. As I think like Midwinter Minis has done a video about it or something like that. The Tamiya thinner, like you look at the warning label and it's just like, probably don't be in the same room. Like put glasses on, don't sniff it. And like the paints smell lethal.
Yeah.
I mean, the warning label was like, don't do this. I'm like, oh, it's like smelling salts or something along those lines. But yeah, I
think you could probably paint something with Tamiya paint, couldn't you? Not paint again for another year, and someone come in and go, "Have you been using paint?"
Yeah. My girlfriend came in here recently for the first time in a while, and she was like, "It smells really chemically," and I was like, "I'm going to open a window."
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been, as people may know, and as you do, been messing about with an airbrush a bit more frequently recently, and I had an issue with using inks.
Yes.
And where I used a white ink to do a zenithal, and I used the AK one and just got loads of like tip drying and wasn't really getting on with it, but I probably didn't thin it enough because you're like, inks, it's not paint, it's ink, it's so liquidy. Shoot it through an airbrush and yeah. At the end of it, there's so many euphemisms in airbrushing, and my tip was quite dry. So I swapped to using a Liquitex ink.
Yeah.
And that worked a treat.
Yes.
It goes through the airbrush and it was amazing. And then I sprayed a yellow contrast over it.
Yeah.
But then when I went in for transfers, I put like a gloss varnish over it, went in with a transfer, and everything just like melted off.
away. It didn't, if I remember right back to the grey, wasn't it?
Yeah, right back down to the plastic.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, that's unpleasant.
You've inadvertently accidentally created your own paint stripper.
Yeah.
You need to bottle it.
Yeah.
Sell it.
Yeah. We're like, here's white ink. Yeah. And but a few people in the comments of that video said, oh, the issue will be with the inks. You have to leave them 24 hours, let them cure, and then you'll generally have a better experience with them. And then I had two Marines that I prime black, did a white zenith all over the top with an airbrush with the ink, and I'd left them for like 3 days, and then I was doing a test model for like an upcoming video, and I was painting on Dark Angels Green contrast paint, and it was still reactivating.
No, really?
I was like, this is so annoying. And then this is when I went on my quest to find a Tamiya flat white, because Cult of Paint rave about it, and then anyone that I've ever spoken to, it's like a secret club. Like you go, have you ever used Tamiya flat white? And they go, oh my god, it's amazing, it's so good through an airbrush. And yeah, got a hold of some, paid an extortionate amount of money on Amazon, and it's amazing. It's incredible, and it doesn't reactivate. So I'm gonna go. I know that it's my fault somehow, because it usually always is. But I'm gonna, I love standing. I love having really hard opinions on things that don't matter. Like biscuits and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to be in Ink's a stupid club. That's going to be the hill that I'm going to die on. Ink's a crap.
I use an FW ink, and it's so brilliantly white. It's almost like the white highlight for white. Do you know? It's so really full on. So I generally, if I'm doing a lot of things with white, I generally don't use it. But if I just want to, if I say like I really want a red to really punch, I'll put the ink on as a highlight, and then put the red over the top of that, because it'll really force a very bright highlight through it, because it's really, really brilliantly white. And because I've always been, if I'm not using that and I want a very strong white, I'm a Pro Acryl guy.
Yeah.
Because the Bold Titanium, I think, is a really, really good paint. But I found as well, because back to the man himself, Byron, a little while ago, gifted us a load of paints from different ranges.
Yeah, a lot of scale 75.
Yeah, and I found that some of them don't like being on top of paints from other ranges at all. When the minute they get on them, they just
interesting.
They just fall to bits with each other. There's something going on between scale 75, and I can't remember what I put it over the top of, but a minute I put it over the top of it, it just wasn't happy at all. And I've had it with, and I don't think it's probably not a problem if you're using Pro Acryl. They're like equivalent to like contrast.
Yeah.
With only Pro Acryl, I would imagine you're fine. But I put a Pro Acryl brown over something, and it didn't like what was underneath it either, and it just went. It started to become like slime. Well, it became like slime. Literally, it was just really
some like reactivation.
Yeah, like, so it wasn't happy, And I think
tinfoil hat time.
Well, no, I don't know. I think it's just it's not done. It's not done on purpose, but I think
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah, clever Americans and their reactivation on purpose systems. But no, I think it's just, obviously.
Army Painter's Dutch?
They're Scandinavian, aren't they? Are they Danish or are they something up there? Yeah, might be from up the cold part of the world up there. But so I think it's just obviously everyone's running a slightly different chemical compound, and then because obviously you are designing it ultimately to work within your own range, aren't you?
Yes.
And then the minute you start to use Ghostbusters, crossing the streams, it can all go a bit can all fall over, But
so here's a question: like, should you just stick to one paint range? So I think the answer is obviously no.
No. Yeah.
Because, like you say, but I think
for safety, I think it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, because people, I hear so much about scale 75 decayed metal.
Yes.
Is it decayed or decayed gold?
Decayed metal.
I think it is. Yeah. And it's kind of like that browny sort of metallic. And I hear nothing but great things. I've seen the Cult of Paint guys use it. It's been recommended from us. I think it was Zach from Faith and Damnation.
Yes, Zach from Faith and Damnation Facebook group. He recommends it. He was a big fan.
Was the first chap to say use this. It's great. So it's kind of like, it's interesting using it like you kind of almost like layering. So instead of going metal wash, metal highlight, you build it up from your base. So you have all of those dark colours. And I think that's one of my issues with the AK range. I don't think there's enough metallics.
It's funny, isn't it, for a range that has got Byron going, maybe you want to cut that back, maybe cut a bit back, but can we have a bit more in the metallic side of things? I think the thing is, to some degree, with AK and metallics, is maybe because I think, although we're probably becoming more their main user, we're not who AK really designed themselves around.
No.
I think they designed themselves around the military diorama gang.
Yeah, very much so.
And I think, probably in Second World War, there probably wasn't a lot of requirements to paint anything gold if you're doing a Second World War diorama,
Yeah.
Unless obviously you're doing that bit where the Nazis are carrying the Ark of the Covenant. But other than that, there probably isn't a lot of requirements to be painting it in gold.
Making Indiana Jones dioramas.
Yeah. So I think and to be fair, their dark metals aren't bad.
Yeah.
Which again sort of leans
because they have gunmetal.
Yes.
And a bunch of silvers.
Do they have like an oily steel?
They have oily steel, which is like iron hand steel, which is still brighter than they don't have like a lead belcher.
No.
Or like Iron Warriors. There's none of those darker sort of like browner metals.
Yeah, you're right.
I think. So here's a question. If we could make looking at the way people go, so like AK is very much geared towards historical wargamers.
Yes.
As you've said, I fully agree with that, because you have like your wine red and you also have brick red and dirty red, and they're all similar-ish.
Yes.
Like those potentially could be down into one paint that just goes, it's like corn red, which I think GW do quite well. It's like Mephiston red, what do you want to shade that with? Corn red, done.
Yeah.
AK, you could pick from 3 and you could go, what exact tone would I like?
I wonder with AK is whether it was a thing of go, we need to do that red because in the Second World War, somewhere in France, all post boxes were that colour.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or in the Netherlands, post boxes were slightly a different shade of red,
And what if you want to paint bricks and a bottle of wine in the same diorama? That if you're making let's invade France. Well, there's bricks in France and there's wine in France. Let's paint that.
It's all I know for in France. Bricks and wine.
Bricks and wine. Yeah. Where's like brie white?
Yeah.
Sort your shit out, AK. So my
I'm just like the idea now of an entire paint range only based around drink and colours of food for all different countries. You might go into Element Games and go, I'm just looking in the AK range. I can't seem to find Basmati rice white.
Yeah, we've only got turmeric yellow at the moment. Yeah, that would be amazing.
That's what the painting phase culinary paint range. I've got chicken korma yellow.
Yeah. Have you got naan bread brown? We've only got Peshwari brown in at the moment. It's very similar, but just a bit more fruity. The options. So yes, AK. I think they've inadvertently made like the best miniature paints, the best matte miniature paints on the market, and
they are good, but Christ, they are matte.
Yeah. So super matte. I think the white and the black, in my opinion, I think are the best.
Yeah.
I know Pro Acryl, like bold titanium white. Everyone talks about that.
Their metallics are great.
And their metallics are absolutely fantastic.
And they're one of the few people out there who do a metallic medium.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So AK, I think their paints are exceptional. They were designed for miniature painters in more of the historical sort of lean, I guess. But I guess people like ourselves and plenty of others have gone, this is great for tabletop wargaming.
Yeah.
I think the system of which is partially the reason why, in my opinion, I keep throwing that in there because I'm more than happy to be wrong.
You can't be wrong on paint. It's such a it's such a personal thing.
Art is
isn't it?
subjective, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think part of the reason GW and Army Painter are the most successful is because their systems are really, really accessible.
Yeah.
And they have colour match sprays to paints.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you were just in the AK system, they have a gold spray that doesn't match any of the golds in
their range.
In the third gen acrylic range. They also have dual XO paints, which are kind of coloured primers essentially that you can use through an airbrush, they don't match those colours either. Everything is slightly different. So you have all of those reds, all your wine reds and brick reds and dirty reds and blood red and this, that and the other. But you have in the spray, which is in their like gaming range, that's vampire red. But you can't, I don't think you can buy vampire red in a bottle. So you're kind of having to
mix and match your way around.
Match and all that sort of stuff. So if you're an airbrush user, but then again, that's a bit trickier because AK don't have the most amazing reputation in the world for going through an airbrush.
Yes. Well, as you found out recently, didn't you?
Because they're mega matte, I think. So if, say like GW, for example, like if you're an airbrush user, anything, like you prime it black and then, or whatever, and then go, oh, but I want the base to be Doomball brown. Thin it down, chuck it through an airbrush, done.
And and let's not forget with Games Workshop, they don't get a lot of mention all the time, but they do air paint as well.
Yeah, they do the air paint.
I always buy cause painting up these marines I do, that I use a lot of Caliban green. Yeah. So I always buy it in the air. It's a bigger bottle.
Yeah.
And also when it comes to thinning it, I don't have to spend as much time messing about with it because it's already partially that thinned out anyway. And I've got to be honest, there are certain paints that, like Mephiston, I always buy Mephiston in air because I know I'll use a load of it because it's the inside of cloak colour is red. So I always know I'll be putting that on in big swathes. So I always buy it in the air as well. So Games Workshop have they do, don't get me wrong, it's not their entire range, but they do a fair bout of it.
Yeah.
And, but you're right though, from the little I understand, I don't hear many people quibble and say, thinning Games Workshop down and sticking through an airbrush as a bind. It seems to work relatively well.
And I think to be fair to AK, like you absolutely can shove AK paints through an airbrush, and I've seen it done, but then I've also seen those people that have done that say they don't go amazingly well through an airbrush, but I'm just doing this one miniature, so it's fine. But then an airbrush is, an intimidating piece of kit, and it's something else that you have to learn. It's another expense. Like buying a can is much better. So with your Colourforge sprays, they fit in perfectly with GW. So if anything, they're helping push people more towards Games Workshop paints.
Absolutely right.
If you could spray, like I love using airbrushes for priming now because the weather's always crap at the minute. And where we are with the office, it's like a wind trap, and you could spin around in a 360 being wind, which I think is
because it's all bouncing off the air, bounces off all the buildings, isn't it?
But like having colour matched sprays, and I think Army Painter do it exceptionally well, and they have a ton of sprays as well.
They do, yeah.
Games Workshop not as well. They only ever have 12.
Yeah, and then things sometimes they, which is a bit of a Games Workshop thing, is they don't get me wrong, especially than it used to be. They switched them on and off.
Yeah,
like it used to be worse. To be fair, was like when a Marine Army had an update. Yeah, they would when they got a new codex. So like round about now, Dark Angel Green
might come back.
Spray. I know it's called Caliban now, but the old Dark Angel Green spray would suddenly reappear. And would be around for, if you were lucky, 6 months. If you were really lucky, maybe up to a year.
Oh, right.
And then it'd be gone. Gone. If you should have had all your Dark Angels done by now, we're off, you know.
Is Death Guard Green still available?
I think Death Guard Green is still is available. Yeah, I think that can get used a bit for
like guards
and stuff like that. I think that's like I think that's their sort of like middle of the road green that they're going for.
Yeah.
But Colourforge do it as well.
Yeah.
Death Rattle Green, it's called.
That's it.
And the great thing is like say because they're so closely matched.
Yeah.
Is if you do need to go back in and touch up, you can find whatever the colour is in a bottle in the GW range. It's there,
Yeah, that's a very good point.
But I like Colourforge, and I don't know, and I probably bring this up as well a little bit. As much as we really do encourage people to get to Element Games, but obviously there is only 3 of them. And if you really do feel the need that you don't want to go on a website, if you happen to have one of them, I don't think they're nationwide, but Boyes. BOYES.
Yeah.
My one, local to me here in Nottingham, runs Humbro. It runs Humbro. It runs Vallejo in virtually an entire range of Vallejo. It runs Games Workshop. It's now taken on the entire Colour Forge range of sprays. Yeah, and you think, it's for one 2/3 of an aisle.
Yeah.
And it sells GW figures at 20% off as well.
Oh, brilliant.
But you think, for a shop that seems to sell everything under the sun, it seems to put in a reasonable sort of. And the other thing it does as well, is which you don't always see knocking around everywhere, is it does the Vallejo pre-built boxes of, like, if you want to do like how to do undead skin, it's the one where it's got all of the bottles in it of how to do this and how to do that. So it sells a fair chunk of them as well. And, And so it's and then it's drills, bone saws, Gorilla Glue, all of that sort of stuff, all your paintbrush thinners and things like that and stuff. So you think for a shop that's to put it in perspective, in my one, the aisle that does that, if you turn around in that aisle, it's the socks.
Yes.
I'm not even joking. It's socks direct. See, if you turn from Games Workshop right behind you, it's socks.
Yeah. See, I was banking on lampshades.
I think they're upstairs. But so, and I think, you think, fair dues to them for, putting it. And I know it's not all of them, because I went in one in one of the little sort of towns near the Peak District up in Derbyshire, and they didn't run it. But if you are lucky enough, they're worth a little bit of a punt, especially when I went in there and they'd suddenly had the whole Colour Forge range, and I was like, wow, that's really quite impressive.
So I'd be really interested. So if you're watching, if you're listening, I'd want to know what people's main range is, what they have the most paints of. But then if you own anything else from any other company, like what tempts you?
Yeah.
So I think for me, it was definitely initially GW to begin with.
Which I still mostly am.
Yeah, and I think the paint quality, apart from there's they have a reputation for a few colours that are generally a bit and having gone back to it, a little bit recently, I'm like, this isn't a dropper bottle. What the hell?
Yeah.
And I kind of get more of the dropper bottle arguments now.
Yeah.
Because I'm just so used to them.
Well, the dropper bottle is just perfect for the airbrusher, isn't it? It's one of the things that stands up really well.
I mean, I'm so used to just like shake, put a little bit on the palette as well. And all that sort of stuff, and that's generally fine.
My question's going to be for the viewers, and I would like to see answers to this in the comments, is even if you're, mainly in one range, what is the paint from another range that you absolutely swear by?
Oh, that
you've always got to have that in, even if you're only all GW or all Vallejo or AK or any of the other myriads of ranges. What's the stepchild in your range that you really like having around?
What have you adopted but prefer?
Yeah.
What's your new favourite child?
Which of your adopted children do you prefer over all your other ones?
Oh, interesting. So I think, like, for me, it was GW, etc., etc. I think Bold Titanium White was like
the first one we sort of
was one of the first ones where you were like, oh wow, like, and that's maybe. And like, wonderful job from those guys, because if you think most people are workshop, the whites, it's like they can be great colours. But when you open a fresh pot and it's just a lump of clay.
Yeah. And also not only that, but black clay.
Yeah. And
hang on, I'm a bit confused.
It puts you off.
Yeah.
I think. So if people on the internet at the right time go, oh my God, this new white exists and it's the most wonderful thing in the world ever.
And honestly, bloomin' paints can be like bloody training shoes, can't they? Suddenly, everyone's painting, everyone's wearing these, and then suddenly, Nike come out with a new pair of Air Jordans of some description, and then everyone's in them. And it's the same with paint. Suddenly, Bold Bold Titanium was one of them where it was like, I didn't know, and as much as I now know the range better, there's lots in it I really like, but I didn't know Pro Acrol, and I only got to know them because of that white. And then I know you did. You stuck your foot in the water and bought some more of their stuff. I only had that white.
Yeah.
And then I ended up with
got
two.
some of the metallics.
Yeah, I ended up with two sets, which was one was like a main colour of bold pink colours, which I got from Byron. And then also Byron gave me a metallics box of colours. And that's how I got to start using more of the Pro Acrol / Monument range. But if I hadn't have had that, I'd have probably still just been going in and just buying a bottle of Bold Titanium. But the one for me, which is very specific, but the one that I really like when I am painting Death Guard, which has been a little while, is AK do, I think it might be called White Green. And it's a very, very, very light green, and I use it as like a final highlight on all of the cracked bits of the armour and so on when I'm doing Death Guard, Plague Marines and so on.
And credit to AK, it's white green, and it's white green.
It is. If I had to be pushed, I'd maybe say cabbage green or cabbage white, going back to my culinary range that I'm working on.
Oh, yes, of course. Like
That's
cabbage.
It. Tell us your favourite culinary.
Iceberg lettuce green, maybe? Yeah.
I've thought a really lovely, rich black with just a lovely hint of brown to it. Soy sauce black.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Excellent.
If you drag it, it goes light on the edges. It goes lighter out on the edges.
Oh, God. So yeah, white green for your Death Guard. Sorry,
white green for me Death Guard. Yeah, no, it's an absolute blinding colour for me as a go-to for just that last highlight. Yeah, I really like. So yeah.
So I think maybe speciality paints definitely pull me away, like Dirty Down Rust.
Yes,
and that one. I think that.
Oh, I opened Dirty Down. I was painting with the youngest last night.
Yeah,
because he's doing me a favour, which is he's painting all my. Because I can't be bothered with them, and I don't really mind how they look because they're in such big numbers. He's painting all my poxwalkers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he was funny though. Like, I'll get to this other bit. He went. I want to paint this some sort of rudimentary spanner.
Yeah.
I want to paint it in rust, and I went, oh, watch this, my boy. And I got out the I got out the Dirty Down Rust. It's probably been in my not very well tended big tub of paints.
Yeah.
And I think it's been living upside down. It had about a 2.5 inch thick mud top to it.
Is that one of the ones where you shake it and you're like, oh, this must be one of the ones without the metal ball in? And you're shaking it and you're shaking it and you're shaking it. And you're like, oh, no, wait, it does. Yeah. And you get there eventually.
Oh, it's literally caked at the top. I was like, oh, this might be past its best. I might need to give in and get another one.
No,
but
it's fine.
But anyway, so I eventually got enough of the chemical in it that does that. I managed to get enough of it to join the liquid that carries it. Basically, I managed to get enough of it, and we hit it with the hairdryer, and he was suitably wowed. And then
it's magic.
And then he went, oh, well, now I want to do this. One of them's got a cybernetic arm. He went, I want to do rust on that one as well. And I went, let's try the other one. So I went, go and get that, and come back with AK Streak and Grime.
Oh, yeah.
That may too well have been Loving Upside Down, because that was like about...
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Streak and Grime separated.
Oh, God,
was it like the rust deposit?
Yeah, it was the rust deposit.
Oh,
Sorry, it wasn't Streak and Grime. Sorry, it was the crusted rust.
Or whatever.
Crusted rust to the absolute max. It was literally crusted rust at the top of it. It's like, so once I got through it with a hammer, and then we put that on. And then he went, well, I like the idea of it being rusted, but what I'm after, I'm thinking that maybe even the rusty arm may start to show little bits of signs of plague. And he went, so what green could I put it in? I thought, 5 minutes ago, you could barely figure out what your way to hold the brush, and now you're bloody Richard Gray. How did that suddenly happen?
I really want to, elements of the narrative to come across in my painting, Father.
Honestly, I was like, what? But, to be fair, I thought, you know what, though, for 10... I thought he's not doing too bad a job at them poxwalkers. I thought, and the great thing is, you field them in 20s just to see of mishmashes of colours and stuff. So that's cool.
No, that's good. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I mentioned it a couple of minutes ago, but Vallejo metallic air paints.
Yes.
But for painting by hand.
Yes.
I think it was probably Richard Gray, but then, Model Air is the range, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Painting Coach always used Chrome Model Air.
Yeah, he loves Chrome.
To highlight his metallics. And I bought a bunch of those. You get them in the big pots.
Yes.
And those were kind of some of the first ones where I was like, ooh.
I'm using that big, is it the gunmetal one?
Yeah.
That's just like my go-to.
Tons, yeah.
It's my go-to metal now all the time, because especially because it's just so accessible. You never have to search for it because it's in a bottle that's obviously bigger. It's got a really good consistency and it's got an agitator in it, and it works really well. And bang, you have to give it a bit of a stare, because sometimes when it lands, you go, oh, it's just black, and you go, oh no, there you go.
Yeah.
But it's decent.
I used some exhaust manifold recently, and that was really good.
I haven't tried that yet, but I've heard good things about exhaust manifolds.
I've got a bunch of them. I used the gold recently, and I enjoyed that. You just got to be careful. Generally, I'm like, put them on a dry palette.
Yeah.
And dab off.
They don't like fluid near them at all.
No, and sort of dab them off on do the first dab on a piece of kitchen towel or something like that. And that seems to work.
Because you are quite runny.
Yeah. Oh yeah, super runny.
Yeah. The one that I've always loved is which I've got to take home. I've got 2 bottles, but they're the black metal.
Yeah.
Black metal's great because if you really want to be mega lazy painting like bolt guns and things like that, you just paint them in that and then just put highlights straight over it, and you don't have to shade them. It will do all of it for you. I'm
in a bit of a quandary at the minute with shading metallics, and I say a bit of a quandary. Like what I've done previously, like occasionally, is used quite matte shades.
Yeah.
And then if they like have, because sometimes I've done like an all over streaking grime like wash and then taking it off, but that's super matte. So for the armor and stuff, it looks great. For metallics, I'm a bit like, it's kind of just makes them look a bit like dirty, which obviously is the point, but just matte and dirty. So instead of this kind of like shiny metallic, you just kind of end up with just a bit of a naff looking like grey. Yeah,
it looks like they're just carrying a bit of an engine.
Yeah. And then you stick a highlight on and you're like, oh yeah, that's metallic again. But I'm not incredibly happy with it. And I use some of is it Dark Black Night, I think, one of the AK like deep shades. Used that recently, and that's super matte. So I'm like, ooh, I haven't used Null Oil in flipping forever. So I need to go back and decide, like, or I did watch Infernal Brush, and he says he prefers like thinning down like Black Templar.
Yeah, Black Templar, paint. Or which is almost as well. If you thin down Black Templar, you end up pretty much the one I was going to say, which I quite like over, which spoilers for a video we've done, but is Basilicum.
Oh, Basilicanum Grey.
Yeah. Even, and if you thin that even more than it already is over metal, I think that doesn't push it too far into the black. So the metal sort of still exposes the metal through it.
Yeah.
But I have this because obviously, like everybody, and even obviously the GWA, is that bolters are metal with a colourful casing.
Yeah.
Some not, but mostly have some sort of colourful casing. But the thing is I always get drawn back to is my previous military life, is the fact guns are never metal. Guns are black, or guns were black. Guns were black, and they were just black, or they were black with my own personal assault rifle with green bits on them, and you're going, and now why have none of them? And the problem being is as well, if you paint, and I've tried it, if you paint a gun on a Marine in black, it just doesn't read very well.
Yeah.
And I can see why GW have, and they must have figured it out, because initially when they started making Marines, they must have gone, well, guns are black, and they've tried it and gone, it doesn't read right. It just something about it doesn't, and and then it would look really weird if you imagine having a black gun next to a Black Templar.
Yeah.
It starts to,
it would look rubbish,
and then, all right, you can go, well, you can have a lead belcher gun next to a lead belcher Marine. You go, you can, there's not that many lead belcher coloured Marines. And also then the casing carries it. You'll go, well, they have a black casing or they have a red casing or something.
Yeah.
But, and then the really funny thing is now, after saying all this, now if you look at like increasingly for a lot of, especially Western armies, assault rifles aren't black anymore. Assault rifles are like this greeny cream colour now.
Oh, right, okay.
Which now looks really, really weird with the King's Guard. because they're all in in their lovely traditional red gear and a black rifle, as it was, and and now they've got these things that are built purely to be a combat thing, and are now this weird sort of very, very light off green sort of cream colour. It looks a bit odd, and especially as well as that they're now covered on all bits for putting attachments of lights and laser pointers and things on them, so they're having to, you've got to be careful of them not ripping bits off their uniform when they move them about their body. So it's like funny because you think, but there's no need to make a camouflage coloured gun.
No.
When you're wearing bright red armour or bright yellow armour, make sure the gun's cammed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's all about, like it is nights in space, isn't it?
And it's all about how they, it's all ultimately about how they read as you paint them.
Yeah.
But you do think, I'm painting this gun and it should be black, Although what I did do is, when I did the Eliminator snipers, I did them in that new NATO colour of gun.
Oh, right. Okay.
I just thought I'll go with that for them. But but it is odd trying to get metal to look like metal, but not just look like a gun, but without just looking like a lump of metal, isn't it? It's trying to get that, And also the problem is as well as that, if we're talking because it's what we are generally, is we are people who paint for armies or examples of things or examples of army painting.
Yeah.
Is you don't want to be sitting there putting like 9 layers on a gun. You know what I mean?
No.
You want to move on, don't you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Colour, wash, highlight, bang. That should be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
really where you want to be. You don't want to be going, and then if I just, because I've started going, I go down stupid rabbit holes.
Yes.
I've started doing it with vehicles again now, and I don't know. It's like, what am I doing? Is if you think of the standard marine bolter, it has the barrel, and then it has that little flat plate underneath it, which I assume is meant to be what we would call a bayonet lug. It's meant to be for sticking a knife to the. But I think that's the plan of it. Somebody may know better than me. And then they have that small little thin rod above the top.
Yes.
On the tanks that I've been painting, because obviously the bolters on that are a bit bigger. I've started because there's not enough going on in my life, obviously, Pat. I've started turning them into lenses.
Why?
I don't know. I'm sure at one point back, and someone please tell me that I'm not going mad. I'm sure at some point back in day of Games Workshop, they used to painted them as a lens, and because they're just a bit bigger. I've now gone. I'm sitting there thinking I've got so much to paint, and I'm turning these things into a lens, into a blue lens with a white highlight, and you go, what am I doing? But so that's been my latest thing of just going. And don't get me wrong, when you see all of that just big clump of two big chunky barrels and then just two little dots of a bright colour above them, it sets them off, but you're going, it's not necessary, and it's a ledge I need to talk myself away from. I don't know why I keep doing it, but
it's tricky, isn't it? Because if you put that out on a table and someone was like, I love how you've done all those as lenses, you turn away and go, just sort of tapped him in.
It's like, I had the bottle open, so I thought,
I just, I looked across, saw the blue. Why not?
It's like, because the other ones as well, like, is if you open the hatches on a Space Marine vehicle, when you open them on one side, they have the two locking mechanisms you can see, and on the other side they have like 4 buttons. And I always paint them in, and then I always paint them into every button's a different colour.
And I'm like, you can't have 2 red buttons.
No, absolutely.
Because if someone says, brother, hit the red button, and they hit the wrong red button.
It's either firing the heavy bolters or it's the ejector seat.
Exactly. It's like drilling your barrels, like how the imaginary bullet's going to get out. We all know.
I seen someone the other day that
even GW have weighed in on this recently. They did a community article about it.
And what did they decide?
They just had arguments for, arguments against,
and didn't draw.
You can do whatever you want. It's your hobby. I think
a guy the other day painted the life out of something. I can't remember what it was. It was a Terminator, but really, really high level painting. And he hadn't drilled his barrels. He'd done them as black splodges,
black circles.
But then did a really bright metallic highlight around partially around the edge of one of the black ones, to the point that they were so good they looked drilled. And someone's like, have you drilled your barrels or have you painted them? He said, I've painted them in. And I said, I wouldn't even ask him what he's done with his barrels if I could paint that well. You know what I mean? What he does with his barrels when he paints that well is his own bloody business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really, really, really exceptionally good painting. And you think, that's a whole other one. Is I don't think barrels on marines and things that small hugely that bothers me. I think it bothers me like when they're really, don't get me wrong,
like on vehicles.
Yeah, but generally on most vehicles nowadays, heavy bolters, use them as an example of a big barreled thing. They generally are built in such a way the barrel's pre-drilled for you. Yeah. But you remember County Council heavy bolter trailer that was in
the Kill Team.
In Kill Team, and had their massive big heavy bolters with, but they weren't. Yeah, they were flat.
Yeah, it's the same with the guns on the Votan like vehicle, the Sagitteur or whatever it's called. Yeah, I can't remember, but like I remember, Peach painting it, and it's just like a big flat like thing. It just looks. Yeah, like a bit wrong.
And don't get me wrong, I always agreed with the argument to some degree of I paid for that plastic, why would I take it out? But then you have to then say, but does that mean you don't throw any sprues away? You know, it's like what you do. But I think personally, when they get that big, if they're not drilled out, I'd have to go in and drill them out. Although I do think I am possibly the world's worst barrel driller. I am so bad at it.
I'm not incredible. Like, I mean, I drilled one for you the other day and I was like, nope, that's ruined.
That can only ever be in an army, never on a video.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Because I couldn't find the knife that I wanted to. And I was like, okay, I'll try and go straight in with the drill. Worked perfectly on the first one. Second one slipped and...
Do you know what? If you're a 3D printing company for doing little gubbins for Games Workshop for 40k, if you can print just a whole rack of just replacement bolter barrels, just the barrels,
just like the front of the gun,
go right, slice that off and put that one on, and if you can print them with the hole already in, that would be awesome. Thanks very much.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Because that's what I would want.
Or if you can't put it in, can you just put a dent so I know exactly where I'm putting the drill?
Yeah. So oh crikey! So business idea. Yeah, we just sell STLs of just bolter barrels.
Yeah.
Of like really obscure sizes.
Yeah, they probably go like hotcakes. They go.
Yeah. Well, the wonderful thing, I guess, with the printing is, I wonder if they use the same dimensions, because then you could just sell one, but then you could scale it up.
Yeah, up and down.
So you could say, if you wanted to use this for a heavy bolter on this, it's 150% or whatever. But sell it with, right, here's it's got a pilot hole, you can drill it if you want to or not, but it'll be perfect. And then do half drilled, fully drilled. Here's a cylinder.
One of my favourite ones now, forgetting my favourite pilot drill hole is, because I still a lot of the time use the traditional Games Workshop thin needled polymer glue.
Yeah.
Well, that always dries in the thing, so I always have a lighter handy.
Yes. Yeah.
So what I do a lot of the time now for pilot holes, I just heat up the end of a paper clip and just burn it in. It raises, so it does that because of the heat. But then when you're going to drill through it bigger anyway, so it gets rid of it. Oh. So it slightly peaks up because of you've gone into it with the plastic that rises around the heated element, and then pull it out, and then I just either slice that, just take it with the edge of my hobby knife, or I just drill it bigger anyway, and it does that.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, you can always tell how good a GW product is if you have to have like a separate third-party product to make it work.
The amount of, I'd love to just fill a table with the amount of things that you have to use to from paintbrushes, all of the other things that you go, I need all of these weird little bits and bobs.
I think I was chatting with Ross.
And everyone's got their own, I think nearly every one of us has got our own little unique one.
Because I haven't used GW glue in ages. I've been like on either Tamiya or AK extra thin. And I accidentally bought just the thin recently, and I was just like, oh, it's so thick. And I think it's great. And then I couldn't find it recently or whatever because I'm a mess. And found the GW one and just like with the applicator, you're like, right, turn it upside down. Oh, I've used too much of it, so it doesn't quite work. So you have to adjust where the applicator is, and then and it's just a faff. Like I get the applicator is interesting, like as in, i.e., it works.
Yeah, it's extremely accurate.
Yes, you can be very accurate, but it is just like it's just not quite there. Whereas I think the Tamiya extra thin stuff is perfectly fine.
Well, my bestie, he swears by it, and the other, and it was quite funny. You know when you know someone's just better than you are. The other week he was helping me build. He was helping me the other day build the arbiters.
Oh right.
And I could blatantly tell all the ones that he'd done and all the ones that I'd done, because they were just scraped off, but all the mold lines and lugs were all done much better. But also because Tim swears by it is. When he goes over a mold, when he scrapes a mold line, he then puts the Tamiya thin to smooth it back out. And I kept picking this up and going, why are his got all weird shiny bit? And I'm going, because he's extra thin. And honestly, it was like, I was looking at mine and go, I'm such a Luddite compared to these ones.
So I've heard it's great for the extra thin. You can't do it with the thin because it just is.
It's too thick, even though it's
solid.
thin. Yeah.
But extra thin, it's great for,
for just taking all of them,
Like the Heresy Marines with the 2-part bumpy shoulder pads. Using, like, running it down the middle to try and, like...
to blend them in together,
a bit was pretty good. Whereas you couldn't do that with the GW plastic glue, I don't think.
No, I don't think... No, you really couldn't. No, it's even though, it's very thin to be able to get through that blooming needle-sized hole, but it's still too thick for that sort of stuff, I think. But it's that... Everyone must have their own little weird little thing that they've sort of come into contact with. And you think, and you know what, good percentages are probably marketable.
We should make like we should just buy a load of unbranded lighters, and then go to a sticker manufacturer and just be like, this isn't just any lighter. This is the Games Workshop adjacent plastic cement applicator glue melter lighter.
Absolutely right.
And it's Warhammer because it's got a flame.
I often wonder whether my newsagents wonder what goes on that I come in and buy, because I have a habit of losing them. I come in and wonder why I come in and keep buying lighters, but they've never seen me come in and buy anything I can smoke.
What's he doing? Because I didn't know. So people like ask you, like, if you're just buying lighters, then it's just like, you must be on drugs. Like, you need to buy cigarettes to be able to buy that. You'd be like,
somewhere I have got, because they just seem to disappear, somewhere that I've got my own like little mountain of of lighters that I haven't got round to using, or one side of it and then managed to lose it. But it must be the amount of quirky little things we all must hold on to do stuff with. I think it's quite funny, isn't it? I think because they must have been, there was that turning point when it became a thing became more of a thing in the hobby for, and there's some of the experts have known it for ages, when suddenly went makeup brushes for dry brushing. And I go, suddenly seems to be a lot of men in boots buying makeup brushes.
No, you buy it on Amazon.
Buy them on Amazon.
It comes in discreet packaging. Nobody needs to know, and it's fine.
Oh, hang on. Are you talking about makeup brushes, or are you talking about them other things that you can use for mixing your paints?
Both. Yes, either or. Yes. It's a massage gun, Jeff.
I only bought it for mixing my paints.
For all the sport I do. It's for my back and shoulders and legs.
So, just thinking on then, do you think Colourforge will expand out into the bottle?
No. I don't think they would,
because they're just then too close to Games Workshop, because they've got this niche pretty much tied up, haven't they? Really?
That,
because they have started making some other stuff, haven't they? They do basing materials and stuff like that, don't they? Colourforge.
You're gonna Google it, which is Patrick googling it.
Yeah, that's it. See, me googling it is just googling
it. Yeah. So let's have a look.
Or gaggling it.
Because they obviously do what they currently do very well.
Yes, they do.
It's very successful.
And I think I've bumped into them, and I'm sure they were lovely.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, I think I had. I think I bumped into them at Birmingham Games Expo.
And they do their Zenithal packs and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so larger product range. Oh yeah, so I've got some of these, like the basing, little cork things. They've done those for ages, but they do various different colours and bits and bobs now. So I think they're kind of like an ancillary. Is that a word? Ancillary, like on the peripheries of.
Yes.
They're slightly further down the hobby trumpet, aren't they? So
they're far enough down it that they're hopefully not upsetting anybody.
Yeah. Well, no, that's it. I think, but like
because again, they're still doing. You talked about this before. It happens on a lot of different things, but they're still doing Games Workshop a favour, aren't they?
Yeah.
Somewhere, big Games Workshop will be like, "Hang on a minute, we do that pink, can you stop selling it?" But
they
can't do it. They can't do anything about it. But
they sell ball bearings, dropper bottles, that kind of thing.
Oh, right, okay.
Like empty dropper bottles, so you can transfer things over. And then we're into the sprays. So the sprays, I think, it's interesting because I wonder if people, like, they'll always be known for their sprays.
Yes.
Like when we were at LVO, like the miniature paint market is certainly getting more saturated. I think there's still probably room for stuff, but maybe it would have to be more niche and this, that, and the other. But then also, if somebody watched this chat show and we said, well, you need this, that, and the other, and you need your sprays to match in with your colours and so on and so forth. But like Colourforge realised that, but somebody already makes the paints. Yeah. So they don't have to worry. So so why would they make the paints themselves and have all that hassle?
Yeah, true.
So I think what they're doing is brilliant. Maybe, I wonder if they would do. Yeah, if they were like, here's, what was it? The Fang? No, that's the Games Workshop colour.
Yeah, it's called it's called Wolf something.
Yeah, like Wolf Grey or something So we're like, if they did a Wolf Grey pot, but then it's also Games Workshop.
You go, I got it. But you're just basically buying games.
But then saying that, Duncan, I think what they've done, like with the Duncan Rhodes range of paints,
the cheating coats,
is really good because they've taken workshop colours, but then, like someone was explaining it to me recently, they've made they all cover really, really well. So there's no, this is a base, this is a layer, and this is whatever. It's just everything is very, very similar. And I think that's like AK do the same. Like they have the single pigment paints, which is like really good for mixing and this, that, and the other. But generally everything works the same. You don't have to think, this is a layer, but I need to do a base coat with it. And you're there putting like 7 coats on or something.
And then you've got your other train of thought, haven't you? Which is I'm not a bright enough man to deal in, is the Chimera paints, which is
I haven't even touched them.
Small number of paints, isn't it? But but all designed to mix and and you think, then you start thinking to yourself, I'd have to have a notebook next to me if I started messing around with Chimera paints, going 7 drops of this and 2 drops of that, because I think I'd never remember that. Or I'd have to find it, like it, and then start putting them in dropper bottles pre-done and keeping hold of it, because otherwise I'd never keep up.
No, I wouldn't either. Like someone was saying, like the Army Painter paints, that's over 200. The Fanatic paints, I think it's over 200 bottles.
Wow.
And every colour has 6 paints in it. So like say Duncan has his triads.
Yes.
So you have
weird having a bunch of gangsters working for him. No wonder this company's doing so well.
Yeah.
You stock this paint. Okay. Yeah. Just put the machetes away.
That's it.
That's how he's done it.
That's how you make a successful paint company. Violence. He has mid-tone shade highlight, 3 works a wonder. Army Painter have gone with 6. And then on the bottles they'll say where in the 6 it is. And it's a very well thought out range. But they've
it's a pricey way of painting. It's a pricey way of painting, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then again, you're not going to go, I need 6 different yellows unless you work in yellows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, because a criticism of the new Army Painter range that I've seen, I can't say whether it's correct or not, because I'm not intelligent enough and I've never tried them. But you could take they've got like their base colour, and then they just go brighter and brighter and brighter, adding white into it.
Yeah.
So you could buy, the top 2, or the bottom one and the top one, or the bottom one and a white, and mix the others.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely in kind of a position at the minute where I can't really be arsed mixing paints.
Oh no, I would. I think
it feels like a hassle.
I definitely quite happy dent my wallet out of laziness.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm in the same boat, and I think whilst people might be going, you lazy buggers," like you're not wrong.
You're not wrong at all. No, we know the fault lies with us.
Yes. But I think
an army painter knows the fault lies with us.
Exactly. Yeah. So I want to buy 300 paints because I'm never going to have to mix anything ever again.
Yeah.
And it's going to be wonderful.
Yeah.
But yes, so I think, mixing stuff, fine. If you're doing it over an army, I think that could be quite difficult to replicate that on a certain volume. And I was chatting to Warwick from Harder and Steenbeck, and they were chatting about mixing paints, but from an airbrush sort of perspective.
Yeah.
So he said, if you're doing an army, you don't want to pre-thin your paints and have it sit there for ages because it starts to degrade.
Yeah,
the airbrush
thinner doesn't like it. Yeah.
Yeah, the airbrush thinner starts to break apart the certain bonds within the paint and this, that, and the other. But apparently there's a sweet spot. Whereas if you mix your paint and let it sit there for half an hour, it's perfect.
Oh, right.
It was really, really interesting. So that kind of I guess slows the process down. You'd be like, right, I've made my mix, I thinned it, but if it's a base coat and you want that to be amazing, then you could just, right, I'll have 4 cups of tea.
Yeah.
And then we'll go.
Yeah.
But because when I see people put GW paints into dropper bottles and they mix, maybe it's different if maybe airbrush thinner breaks it down. If you're doing if you're putting the specific medium of the paint to dilute it, then maybe that's fine. If you're putting Lamium medium into GW paints, because that's just the medium, isn't it? So maybe that's not a problem. But yeah, there we go.
Food for thought.
So anyway, you were painting your RBCs.
I was painting my RBCs, wasn't I? Yeah.
What colours are you doing? And then we'll finish.
Yes, So if you are interested, they are the one that I've painted is up on my Instagram page, which is just my name, Jeff Savory. And so I decided, having looked at them, and I thought, I want to do. I really like the idea of doing them something different. So I painted them in basically Colourforge's version of the Fang, which I can't remember the name of.
Yeah.
And Wolfie something. And and they just didn't look right. Just I looked at it, I went, and then I went, now what? Oh. And then I thought, hang on a minute, because it was literally out. I thought, I just slathered it in Darucci Violet.
Yeah.
And it ended up with that really dark, very, very dark blue.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because after I sprayed one, I went, I've now bought an £11.50 can that unless I suddenly start playing Space Wolves, I will never have any use for.
Yeah.
And then realised, I thought, now I've got this is now me primer for these guys, and I'm now going to. So, and ultimately, what I come down to is it's not original. Loads of people have done them, and they've done them for as long as there's been Arbites models, but I've done them as like a Judge Dredd style sort of thing.
Yeah.
Red visor, loads of black, 2 gold shoulder pads, and knees, elbows, and boots, and everything on the belt in like a green.
Oh, okay.
And so it's got a bit of a Judge Dredd feel to it. But so I stuck it up on Instagram and I went, is he the law or a bit of a bore? And most people came back and I went, it's not original. I've done them as Judge Dredd. And somebody came back and went, that's the only colour to paint Arbites is doing them as Judge Dredd. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That's the one. So I think we'll finish up there. And so look forward to our culinary-based paint range coming out.
Yes.
Which will be working on the Yakuza system of... There you go. It comes in the Yakuza system. But how many paints is in that? Oh, it's not nuts. Did they just come in and make sure you stock it?
Yeah, it's only going to be 5 paints. Yeah. So everyone has space for it in their local hobby, friendly local gaming store. I'm loving the idea of people going. I want
in not the Heinz, but have you got it in the Aldi own tomato sauce red? It's just not quite as bright.
Oh, like Mr. Peppy or whatever it is.
Professor Peppy.
Professor Peppy.
Yeah.
Professor Peppy Brown.
Yes, exactly. Oh, it's going to fly off the shelves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just Aldi names. Yeah,
that's it. We've got it sussed. We'll have this market cornered in no time.
Maybe it could just be all Browns. What's their caterpillar? Cuthbert?
Yeah, Cuthbert. Yeah,
Cuthbert Brown.
Yeah,
that's slightly different to Professor Peppy.
Well, I like the idea that you've got whatever colour oven ready chips are next to chicken nuggets. They're very close, but just different enough.
Different. All the different shades of beige.
Yeah. I want bean soaked chip colour. It's like the brown, but it's had like a.
Yeah,
it's been sitting under. It's been sitting under the beans for 5 minutes. Yeah. Oh, there's a whole range there. We'll have to figure out.
Well, you could maybe that could be it. You'd be like, well, I started off with chip brown, and then I went in with the glaze of Aldi's own bean.
You're back to Chimera paint.
Yeah. You're like somewhere in between a glaze and a wash.
Anyway, I think that's more than enough of that nonsense.
Yes, I think so. I'm not even going to talk about what I've been painting.
Oh, we never got there.
Lol. Well, just working on videos, isn't it? I did a coat of paint thing, which should hopefully be out by the time this is. So
I like now that everything that's being painted is now just lives on that shelf and involves them to turn around and go, what was it?
It was. I brought some guys in here over the weekend, and they were like, "Where's Greg?" And I was like, "Oh, he hasn't come out of the box since we moved." So Greg's back on the shelf.
Oh, as he should be.
Yeah, pride of place.
Still gets comments, Greg, all this time later, and about once a week. There's a Greg,
isn't it?
There's still a Greg comment.
Yeah.
Does.
Someone came up to me like, "Yeah, I first heard of you guys like when you painted that really terrible Space Marine." I'm like, "Nice." Yeah, like if that's
good starting point.
Yeah, if that's my YouTube legacy, who am I to complain?
Absolutely right.
Yeah, I'll take it. Wonderful. Right.
Great stuff then.
Let's get a bun there.
Yeah. So bye everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, and thank you to our wonderful patrons as ever. You guys are amazing, and we will see you soon.
Bye.